Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. The rising threat from wildfires and dangerous heat in the West. The National Guard may be heading to more U.S. cities to combat crime, and why some countries are suspending deliveries of packages to the U.S. We begin in the West, where more than 30 million are on alert for dangerous heat. Record highs possible in Portland and Seattle. In Napa, they're battling a fast-moving fire from the air and on the ground. In Oregon, thousands of homes threatened. After deploying the National Guard to the nation's capital, President Trump now says he might send more troops to the streets of Chicago, New York, and Baltimore to fight crime. Democratic leaders in those states pushing back, saying crime rates are falling, some calling the move unconstitutional. Ukraine on the offensive on its Independence Day. Major strikes deep inside Russia, targeting energy facilities. The peace initiative at a standstill. Vice President Vance insisting the Russians have made concessions toward Ukraine, but the Russian foreign minister says no sit-down between the Russian and Ukrainian leaders is planned. Also tonight, worldwide confusion over new rules for shipping. Some countries plan to stop delivering packages to the U.S. after the president ended tariff exemptions. What this could mean if you bought something from overseas. The frightening scene on an American Airlines flight. What happened when a device caught fire, sending smoke through the cabin? The warning to residents after an explosion and fire at an automotive plant. Why they're being told to be careful about what they touch. No one saw this coming. A hot air balloon makes an emergency landing on a city street. Serving up history as the U.S. Open begins. Former champ Venus Williams making a comeback at 45 as Novak Djokovic goes for his 25th Grand Slam title. And America Strong. Meet the women trying out for a new league of their own.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News.
Detectives are reportedly eyeing designer drug dealers in the tragic Montauk death of an Irish-born swimwear designer earlier this month. A white powdery substance was reportedly seen next to the body of 33-year-old Martha Nolan O'Slatara, found dead aboard a yacht on August 5th. The New York Post reports the cops still don't definitively know if the powder is heroin, cocaine, fentanyl, or a deadly mix of all three, as police await toxicology results. Fox News contributor and criminal defense attorney Donna Rotuno joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Donna. Where are we on this case, and what are we waiting for at the moment?
Well, right now, the medical examiner's investigation came back inconclusive, waiting toxicology results. Toxicology results, especially given the potential mix of different types of drugs, designer drugs, normally take a little bit longer. I think they're hoping that they'll have those results back by the beginning of September. And I think once we have those results, obviously, it will either answer the question or it will open the door to more unanswered questions and a further investigation to ensue.
So it sounds like police are, at least from where we see right now, it looks like they're kind of narrowing down to the idea that they are looking for some possible drug dealers. But there's a real problem. I mean, that's a real complicated thing, going after trying to find drug dealers who maybe sold something that had, a deadly mix of fentanyl in it.
Sure, you're going to be looking at knowledge components there, right? And also you have to think about the way the narcotics trade works. It's multiple layers. I mean, you have one person who gets a product and then disperses it out to people that then sell it. So, in terms of the knowledge of what's actually in something, it's going to be interesting to see where that liability falls.
Yeah, probably safest just don't do drugs would be my recommendation.
Absolutely.
Also want to ask you about this. Moscow Police Chief Anthony Dallinger weighs in on the Koberger investigation. Watch this.
Any indication that he didn't act alone? No. Where's the murder weapon?
Don't know.
Would you have gotten probable cause to arrest him without the DNA?
I believe so.
Based on what?
Our investigators were very confident that based off of where we were going with the vehicle and the information that we gathered, we would have got there. I don't know what our timeline would have been, but I believe we would have got there.
So right now the judge is debating about whether or not to release some of the photos that were taken from the crime scene. How do you see this playing out?
So I know the judge issued a temporary injunction to stop the release of certain evidence, especially given privacy concerns of the victims in this matter, specifically one mother that did file the injunction, but I know that they extended it all the way across the board, which they should have. I do believe that we are going to see a permanent injunction on certain evidence.
Right.
I think the majority of the evidence will still be released, but body cameras of these victims' bedrooms or anything in terms of, the state that they were in, none of that should be released to the public, in my opinion.
And explain how that normally works in a case like this where you have a lot of public interest, but you also have, I'm always in favor of transparency in all cases, but you do have privacy concerns.
On this Sunday night, support for Ukraine. The Canadian Prime Minister's surprise visit to the war-torn country. Canada will always stand in solidarity with Ukraine. Details of a new military aid package and the possibility of deploying Canadian troops to Ukraine. Distraction theft.
I didn't know I got involved.
The warning from police about a troubling tactic. Colorful crosswalk controversy. The latest flashpoint in the U.S. crackdown on DEI. Plus, love for Labubus.
It's taken on a life of its own as a luxury status symbol.
How these peculiar plush toys fuel a multi-billion-dollar business.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. For the first time as Prime Minister, Mark Carney paid a visit to Ukraine today, reaffirming Canada's commitment to supporting the war-torn country against Russia's invasion. Prime Minister Carney met President Volodymyr Zelensky in the Ukrainian capital as they celebrated Independence Day, marking exactly 34 years since Ukraine declared its independence from the Soviet Union, that sovereignty now under attack. Carney announced details for billions of dollars in new military aid, and he was asked about the possibility of deploying Canadian troops to Ukraine. Our David Aiken is traveling with the Prime Minister. So David, what more can you tell us about this surprise visit?
Well, ever since the Russian invasion of 2022, Jeff, any Canadian Prime Minister that has wanted to visit Ukraine has had to do so by train.
An 11-hour journey under armed guard from neighboring Poland.
And from there to Kyiv's Sofia Square to join Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to mark Ukraine's Day of Independence from the old USSR.
Slava Ukraini!
This year, with a special guest.
Прем'єр-міністр Канади Марк Карні.
Prime Minister Mark Carney was the only world leader on Sofia Square, invited there by Zelensky himself when the two men first met in person at the G7 summit back in June in Alberta.
Tonight, dramatic and dangerous scenes of fire and dust out west. At the Burning Man Festival, you see it here, a huge dust storm whipping through. Oh my God. Visibility near zero, tents torn down, people covered head to toe in dirt with warnings of a monsoon, maybe next.
Oh my God, something just picked up and flew into our RV.
And in California's wine country, wildfires burning thousands of acres, threatening some of the state's celebrated vineyards. We're covering it all. The family of Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre blasting the Justice Department for releasing Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony. Why the family says Maxwell's trying to rewrite history, and what else we're learning tonight. The man whose case became a flashpoint in the Trump administration's deportation crackdown, facing a deadline to maybe be sent to Uganda. His emotional reunion with his family and what's ahead. As Ukraine celebrates Independence Day, why the push for peace seems to be stalling. Chicago bracing for National Guard troops after President Trump floated the idea, signaling Baltimore and New York could be next. Our reporter, one-on-one with Chicago's mayor, now pushing back. What Uber is saying about this video of a driver assaulting a passenger. New concerns, a deadly disease outbreak making dozens sick in New York could threaten other parts of the country, thanks to some industrial ACs running full blast.
This is NBC Nightly News with Hallie Jackson.
Good evening. We begin tonight with extreme weather, potentially.
Tonight, extreme heat fuels
fuels new fire danger. Evacuations grow in California's wine country. Firefighters working around the clock to contain the flames. I'm Elise Preston in Los Angeles. Triple-digit heat and dry brush. The latest on California's wildfire fight.
The West broils while the East suddenly gets a taste of fall. I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak on the forecast straight ahead.
Also tonight, fighting back.
It's unconstitutional.
Maryland's governor takes on President Trump's D.C. troop deployment.
I'm Willie James, and at the White House, new threats from President Trump tonight as a war of words erupts over his crime crackdown.
Plus, Ukraine marks its independence with words of support.
I'm Chris Livesey in Rome, where Pope Leo called for peace in Ukraine on its National Day of Independence.
Labor Day getaway. New details on what to expect on the road or traveling by air. Plus, beef prices soar.
I'm Lisa Roger in New York City, where hamburger restaurants are trying to keep their prices low and eating the cost of skyrocketing ground beef prices.
And later, a longer leash on life. CBS's Itai Hod reports on a San Francisco company working to keep dogs healthier in their golden years.
We're hoping for at least 1 year of very good quality life.
The sole survivor of a deadly mushroom meal tells the Victorian Supreme Court he forgives Aaron Patterson. The federal government expands the first home buyers scheme. The opposition warns it will drive up prices. Ukrainians celebrate the country's Independence Day. Many remain hopeful a peace deal can soon be reached with Russia. And the Gold Coast Titans part ways with their coach Des Hasler after an underwhelming season. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Catherine Robinson. Convicted triple murderer Aaron Patterson has faced for victims' families at the Victorian Supreme Court, where impact statements have been delivered. In 2023, Patterson served her 4 lunch guests a beef Wellington containing death-cap mushrooms, leaving 3 of them dead. Reporter Sasha Payne was in court.
Well, it's been
Good morning. It's 6 o'clock on today's show. The government under pressure on migration as more protests take place around the country.
And in sports, Emma Raducanu ended a long wait for a win at the US Open. Action from Flushing Meadows is on the way.
It's Monday the 25th of August. MPs report a surge in abuse and violent threats as protests continue and divisions grow over migration. More than 1 million people are expected in West London today for the Notting Hill Carnival. Temperatures could hit 30 degrees this bank holiday Monday, with the UK on track for its hottest summer on record. In Australia, the families of the mushroom murder victims speak out in court. The sole survivor says he feels only half alive after losing his wife and 2 close friends.
And Tommy Fleetwood finally won a long-awaited maiden PGA Tour title. We'll show you how he clinched the Tour Championship to pocket £7.4 million of prize money.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here.
The potatoes are well lifted because of the dry weather haven't yielded exceptionally well, and we're probably losing £500 an acre, and we just have to take that.
the price of potatoes. Farmers face increasing issues in providing a well-priced product for the dinner table.
A bombshell memoir from Beyond the Grave. Prince Andrew's sex abuse accuser Virginia Giuffre's autobiography will be released in just a matter of weeks.
And as Scottish Conservative leader Russell Findlay will call for more powers to be devolved to local governments and communities, we're asking, is devolution a good idea or a disaster?
And in sport this morning, golfer Tommy Fleetwood is in great form heading to Ryder Cup. He's won his first PGA title after 164 attempts last night. Emma Raducanu got past the first round of the US Open for the first time since she won the title. And in football yesterday, offensive banners, pushy refs, and a shiny new stadium.
There's plenty of sunshine in the forecast today, but it is turning more unsettled Tuesday and then throughout the rest of the week. I'll have all the details coming up shortly.
Good morning, it's just gone 2 minutes past 6 o'clock. I'm Ellie Costello.
I'm Penny Smith, and this is GB News Breakfast.
And I think we should start this morning by talking about blackberries. Do we all like blackberries?
I think so.
I love blackberries, they crumble.
I love a blackberry, but why do you say that? Did you eat a crumble yesterday?
No, but I wish I did. Well, apparently they've ripened earlier this year.
That is
A few weeks earlier this year. Because it's been so hot.
Yeah. But I went blackberrying the other day. There I was on a dog walk, and
Specifically, you go to a blackberry place?
I did, because
Right.
I'd seen the blackberries the day before when I'd taken the dog.
Right.
And so I went,
Oh, that's
right, I'm bringing bags. So I brought some Ziploc bags, because otherwise...
That's very professional.
I know,
Very.
very professional. I was wearing a high sock.
Oh, were you?
Well, because wherever there are blackberries, there are usually nettles. And we don't
Right.
like being stung by a nettle. And then, essentially, I just got stuck in.
Hold on, are you in a short and a high sock then?
Yes.
Okay, not a trouser.
No, I don't wear a trouser.
Oh.
No, it's too hot at the moment.
Okay, fine.
You don't go trousering, and
No,
you
that's
don't need to do that. Actually, trouser is a different meaning. Anyway, so off I went, and I picked loads of blackberries.
How many bags?
1.5 bags.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. And then I took them home, and obviously I'd eaten quite a lot of them. And then I got them home, boiled them up with a bit of sugar, and I drank them.
Oh,
Did you?
I thought you were going to make a jam. Okay, you made blackberry
I
juice.
just made blackberry juice, and I stuck it in there. I didn't put very much sugar in. I put a bit of star anise in just to give it a bit of pep.
Oh.
And then I just necked it, and I
Wow.
could feel the vitamin C coursing through my
And lots of
veins.
antioxidants. All the good
It's
stuff.
delicious, yeah.
Oh, lovely.
That's a question.
Yes, do.
Are there gooseberries around these days? I don't see gooseberries like I used to when I was a kid.
Ever. I don't know what's wrong with we don't seem to eat gooseberries. I think it's just one of those things that I know. I love a gooseberry full.
Yeah. Are you familiar with a gooseberry?
I've heard of a gooseberry.
You haven't seen a gooseberry?
I can't say I've tried one.
It was the 70s, 80s.
But I do like blackberries, and I do like blackberry picking, and we'd always do it as a family. Go out,
Yes,
we'd go with a
exactly.
little what's it called, like a bowl? Yeah, like a
Luxury travel.
Hello and a very warm welcome. If you're just joining us, you're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are the top stories this hour. Ukraine claims to have taken back control of a few villages in Donetsk, while Russia says drones sparked a fire at a nuclear plant there. This as President Volodymyr Zelensky once again calls for a face-to-face meeting with Vladimir Putin. A fireball in the center of Yemen's capital, Israel bombed Sana'a. Retaliation, it says, for the ongoing attacks against Israel by Houthi rebels, who say they will continue to strike as long as Israel continues its war on Gaza. Security and securing business deals, the two topics on top of the agenda as the presidents of the US and South Korea meet in Washington for the first time. Also, coming up in this edition, we're going to have Emily Boyle here with a review of the international newspapers. She'll be bringing us the latest coverage of Donald Trump's plan to send more troops to Democratic-run cities, and she'll be bringing us a look at some of the best features from London's Notting Hill crime.
You Can't Kill the Story starts September 16th on DW. This is DW News, and these are our top stories. Ukraine has been marking its Independence Day, 34 years since the nation split from the Soviet Union. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney joined ceremonies in Kyiv in a show of solidarity for Ukraine's fight against Russia. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the war had brought the Ukrainian people a new sense of self-worth. Israel has carried out airstrikes on multiple targets in the Yemeni capital Sana'a, including near the presidential palace. The Israeli army said the attacks were in retaliation for missiles and drones launched by Houthi militants towards Israel. Houthi officials say at least 4 people were killed and dozens were wounded in the strikes. More than 500,000 people across northern Vietnam and China's Hainan Island have been asked to evacuate as Typhoon Kanjiki intensifies. Flights have been cancelled and ships have been ordered to stay ashore as the region braces for winds of up to 200 kilometers per hour. The typhoon is expected to make landfall in Vietnam on Monday. This is DW News from Berlin. You'll find more on our website. That's dw.com.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 in New Delhi and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Paul Sung. At this hour, Vietnam begins evacuating more than 500,000 people as it braces for a powerful typhoon. Strong winds are expected to slam into the east coast today as authorities warn of floods, storm surges and landslides. Emergency measures also activated across the border in China after the storm skirted past Hainan province. Indonesia launches a large-scale measles immunization campaign today for children in East Java. It is part of efforts to protect thousands from the latest outbreak, which has killed at least 17 children. Israeli warplanes hit several sites in Yemen's capital Sanaa in response to repeated attacks by Houthi rebels who have vowed solidarity with Palestinians. Israel is gearing up for an expanded offensive in Gaza City despite international pressure to call it off.
To my brothers and sisters of Gaza and Palestine, we will never abandon. We will never surrender like you, and in fact we learn from your zeal, your spirit and your struggle.
I tried to go.
Africa News. The news.
He was released from a Tennessee jail on Friday, but less than 24 hours later, authorities in the United States have told Kima Abregiogathie that they plan to deport him to Uganda. This latest move comes after he declined an offer to be sent to Costa Rica in exchange for remaining in jail and pleading guilty to human smuggling charges. Instead, he chose to await trial in Maryland, where he lives with his American wife and children. Abregiogathie became a symbol of President Donald Trump's aggressive immigration policies when he was wrongly deported to his native El Salvador in March. He entered the U.S. illegally as a teenager in 2011 after fleeing gang violence. In 2019, an immigration judge granted him protection against deportation to El Salvador, saying he likely faced a threat of gang persecution there. Facing a court order, the Trump administration brought him back to the US in June, only to detain him on human smuggling charges. He's been told to report to an immigration facility in Baltimore on Monday. Libyans in 7 municipalities in the country's northwestern region were finally given the opportunity to vote on Saturday. Polls there were delayed for a week due to security concerns, following an attack on an electoral commission facility in one of the areas. The first phase of the polls was held for 58 municipalities last November, while the second phase covered 26 municipal councils earlier this month. Although not all municipalities were able to vote, the polls are seen as a crucial step in revitalizing local governance. Libya remains divided between two rival administrations. One led by Abdul Hamid Dbeibe in Tripoli controls the west of the country. The other government, based in Benghazi, is led by Osama Hamad and governs the east and much of the south. Earlier this week, a senior United Nations figure praised Libyans for showing a remarkable determination to exercise their democratic right to vote. The Special Representative for Libya told the Security Council that the country remains mired in political deadlock, fragile security, economic hardship and human rights concerns. She called for the implementation of a politically viable electoral framework, unifying institutions and the government, and a dialogue that allows all Libyans to take part.
The DRC and M23 rebels may have signed a peace declaration in Qatar, but violence still rages in eastern Congo. The UN warns that diplomatic efforts have yet to stop the bloodshed.
Regrettably, the evolution of the security situation on the ground has not matched the progress achieved on the diplomatic front, while the parties are yet to comply with their obligations under Security Council Resolution 2773.
The Doha Pact followed June talks in Washington, but M23 wasn't at the table and says it won't honor the agreement.
En dépit de toutes ces initiatives de paix,
despite all these peace initiatives, we remain concerned in light of recent developments about the sincerity of Rwanda's commitment and that of their AFC M23 auxiliaries, who persist in trampling on their obligations under the Washington Peace Agreement and the Doha Declaration of Principles.
de Washington et de la Déclaration des principes de Doha.
Rwanda has also voiced its concern, demanding its territory be protected amid ongoing tensions.
It is non-negotiable, the territorial integrity of the DRC.
So is the territorial integrity of neighbors of DRC, including Rwanda. And the territorial integrity and sovereign obligations of any member country of the UN include fair treatment of citizens. Sovereignty comes along with obligations. The DRC must stop mistreating or treating part of their population as less than citizens.
Thousands have been killed and hundreds of thousands displaced in the conflict. A final ceasefire deal between Congo and M23, brokered by Qatar, missed its deadline. No major talks have happened since.
8 years after the Rohingyas' forced displacement from Rakhine State in Myanmar, the United Nations says the crisis facing them has worsened. In August 2017, 1 million people from the Muslim minority group fled a military offensive, a campaign that UN investigators describe as a textbook example of ethnic cleansing.
Ending impunity and ensuring the Rohingyas' rights to security, citizenship and equality are essential for breaking the cycle of violence.
The UN says that since late 2023, the human rights and humanitarian situation in Rakhine have sharply deteriorated.
Implore the international community to step up support for the Rohingya by increasing humanitarian funding to secure access to basic needs and essential services, to resolutely support international accountability processes.
It says funding cuts are severely curtailing assistance to the Rohingya in both Myanmar and neighbouring Bangladesh, and it's calling for a lasting solution to the crisis.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, Russia says a Ukrainian drone attack set a nuclear plant on fire as ceremonies in Kyiv mark 34 years of independence. Then, how sophisticated criminal networks are faking students' identities to steal millions of dollars from U.S. colleges. And 3 brothers from Scotland who are attempting to row 9,000 miles across the Pacific to raise money and awareness for clean water projects.
It's a real challenge in kind of resilience and not just your physical ability to do it, but I think mentally staying positive, keeping morale up.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.